Hello and welcome back. I am Conan Lybarian with Obsidian Portal, and this is It's in the Cards. Now, if you're not entirely familiar with what we do here, make sure to check out the intro video on Obsidian Portal's channel where I go over the rules I follow as I move through this process. Basically, I open a random pack of trading cards and create a brand new story, session, or one-shot for you to run at your table at home. Remember, as I move through this, feel free to take, adapt, change any element that would fit into your story. The point of this is not to be exact, the point of this is to challenge myself and challenge you as a GM to create something new from an unfamiliar place. Now, last time I opened up a pack of X-Files Season 2 trading cards. One of my rules is that I have to create something unrelated to the pack of cards I'm opening. Now, I didn't have aliens and shadow government and conspiracy theories, but it was monster and occult focus. So while I'm definitely going to run that session, it might be a little on the nose for Rule 2. So what I'm going to do today is open up a Season 4, Series 1 pack of Walking Dead trading cards and create a youth-focused, kid-friendly session. I have no idea what's in this pack, and I really have no idea what kind of story we're going to end up creating, but I'm pretty excited. So, let's crack open our next story. Just wanted to put in a quick disclaimer here. While I am going to create a kid and youth-focused story, the cards themselves are mature rated. Death, zombies, blood, and gore. So, while I want this story to be accessible to anyone of age, maybe this video itself is best left to an older GM. Also, I'm going to murder spelling here. I am terrible, and I would say I'm going to fix it in post, but I am not. It will look like a zombie massacre more than likely. I'm not sure yet. I'm excited to find out. Alright, so, Walking Dead trading cards. Now, as I move through this, I'm going to throw up a couple plot points. These are things I like to use as a GM when I create to make sure there's enough content and meat for my players to sink their teeth into. The story, the hook, the hero, the villain, I'll kind of explain that as I go through. And let's find out what we've got in this pack of zombie trading cards to create our kid-friendly session. So these are really nice sealed. The packaging feels really crisp. Alright, so what we're going to get first is our story. So the story is what this overall session is going to be about. Now again, I'm going to use these cards, the aesthetic, the context, a picture, and see what we've got. Okay. So, Tyrese and Carol, walking around. Now, if we're looking at this, we've got, he looks pretty fierce, he looks pretty dominant, he almost looks scared, and we've got Carol in the background, just looking a little bit listless. And kind of the feeling that I'm getting from this, and if we're going to talk about a kid-themed something, he looks like a protector. And I mean, she's set really small in the background, he looks much larger, and he looks protective. He doesn't look threatening as much as he's very obviously standing in front of someone, leading someone. So what we're going to say, our story here, is that we have a younger kid who's being protected by an older kid. And I don't want to say sibling or brother, it's a little exact for what the card is, but I think that's a good story itself, something that you can build more around, is that the story is about someone who's protecting a younger kid. Okay, so now we need our hook, and the hook is what you put out there to your players to get them interested and involved. It's how you get them out of the tavern, it's how you keep them from murdering anyone you put in their path. The hook is, hey, here's this thing, go and get it, investigate the story. We've got, okay, end of his term. This is the governor, dead, with his neck blown out. It's been a while since I watched the show. So, our hook. You know, we don't have to say that someone's murdered and bleeding and dead, but our hook here, we have someone who is protecting a younger kid. We have this card here where someone's obviously been roughed up, but our hook is that this person who's protecting this younger kid, this, we'll say, older kid, protecting this younger kid, keeps getting beat up. So he's putting himself, or she, we're going to say in this case, she is putting herself in a place to protect this younger kid, but she keeps getting beaten up, and that can really drive the players if they notice this, this young teenager taking this beating while protecting this other kid. So the hook here is that this older kid keeps getting beat up, and they want to stop this. They want to help protect both of them and help this older child protect this younger child. So that's our hook. Okay, so now we need our hero. A hero could be really anyone. The hero could be the party. But the point of the hero in a story is the hero is what the story focuses around. Again, a lot of sessions, your party is going to be the hero, and maybe in this case they are. I think, honestly, we've already picked our hero in this case. I'm going to say that the hero is not necessarily the child she's trying to protect, but that protector herself. I don't think I have to draw a card for that. I think that's a pretty empathetic hero that we can go with. So I'm going to say that the teenage girl is the hero. Okay, so I do want a villain. I'm not sure what we're going to see here, but our villain is going to be someone who's instigating the issue. Our villain is someone who, maybe they're the person beating her up, maybe they're the people after the younger kid. I don't know. I only have a couple cards, but I think it's worth drawing a new one for the villain. Nope, wrong ones. There we go. Our villain. Okay. So we've got Carol herself. And this is kind of interesting. So she was in the first one. But this actually leads to something too that a lot of youth deal with, is their group of friends may not always be who they think they are. And if the villain is actually possibly the little kid themselves. And I still think this is a kid-friendly theme because it's not going to involve murder or dead people or zombies. But what we're looking at here is a case where this teenager, she's trying to protect this younger child, and it turns out that this younger child is instigating the issues. This younger child is actually being mean behind her back, whether she's saying mean things about the older child, or she's instigating these fights, or possibly even being cruel to the people that are eventually beating up this protector. Our villain is that younger person themselves. Okay, so now we need a conflict. And our conflict is where everything comes to a head. At this point, we have the teenage female protector, we have the younger child being protected by this teenager, but it turns out that she's actually the one creating these issues. And this is pretty easy to get the party involved. We have the story itself is a pretty good one, and I think a fairly common theme in a lot of even children's books or shows is someone's being picked on. So the party is trying to help not only protect this younger child, but help stop these people that end up beating up this protector, only to find out that this younger child is actually the instigator. So our conflict is where all this comes to a head, where the villain, the hero, in this case also the child being protected, and the party come together to have the main crux of the story. So in this case, for a kid-friendly story, what's that conversation? Obviously, the party is not going to murder a young child who's being, even if they're an instigator. But what happens with the party, the protector, and this villain? Okay, so we have him again. The governor, this time very much alive. He looks lost, though. He looks really lost. He's sitting in front of this tent, in front of a campfire, and on the back he's out in the wilderness, just out with his thoughts. He's by a tent, he's alone. And just like we used Carol as the picture meant that Carol was also the villain, this is who we used for the same card for the hook, is this older teenager getting beaten up. We have this conflict here where it turns out the teenager finds out in this conflict that the youth is the actual instigator. And suddenly this protector, she's been trying so hard, and she's been taking physical and metaphorical and verbal beatings to try to protect this person that she really thought needed protecting and saving. So at this point, she's lost. She doesn't feel good. The conversation comes to a head, and that's what I think happens at this conflict, is that there's an actual conversation. The party brings these two together and says, listen, we know what's happening. We've talked to these other kids that you are fighting. We've found out these mean things that you're saying or doing, and you're putting your friend who's trying to protect you in danger. And the conflict at this point is that this protector, she's entirely lost and doesn't know what to do after so much hardship. I think that works out really well. Okay, so now we have the action or the conclusion. And the action or the conclusion is what happens next? What happens after all of that? This is where, as a GM, you decide the options to give the party, right? So, as a GM, I think in my case, well, let's see what the last card is, and then we'll go from there. Last card is, well, it's Carol herself out in the woods alone. So, it's actually a pretty grim scene from Walking Dead, if I remember. I think in this case, yeah, this is where Carol murders that psychopath child, which is not entirely kid-friendly in about 100 different ways. But the point is, she looks lost, and she looks sad, and she looks lonely. And if we continue this theme here where the child was being protected, it turns out the child is the instigator, but that younger child themselves is lost and lonely and scared too. So our action, our conflict is that our action and our conclusion here, we need a good way to tie this up and something to offer. But I think putting out there that the instigator herself has very real issues of herself feeling alone and lost. Now, we've got our action conclusion. I've got these question marks, and what those question marks are, as a GM for me, as I'm creating a story, writing a session, whatever it is, aside from monsters and stats and setting and XP, I come up with a lot of ideas that I don't want to just throw away, just because it might not be entirely related to the story at the moment. I may use it later, I may use it in something else entirely, but I think I definitely want to put in here, and it may not be specifically the action or the conclusion, but this really fits that this youth and this instigator herself has those same lonely fears. And I think that leads her to doing these things. She has this person who's protecting her, but she also wants the attention. That's why she's starting these fights. It's why she's saying or doing mean things. So that's going to go in our wild card here. Okay, I think this makes sense. So I've run out of cards, and I could keep going with just the theme that I have, but I also wanted to use this because actually this ties in well. It's Rick and his son on these train tracks. I think I'm actually going to use this too, because what this does for us is shows us that parent and the child, the protector and the protectee. And I think that's what we're going to do for our conclusion and our action is we're wanting something kid-friendly here. We're wanting something youth-focused. So the point of this is that the party needs to help these two kids understand each other and help this youth understand that while she's doing this for attention, she's doing this out of fear or loneliness, maybe she's just doing this to get attention from this older person. She's scared if she doesn't have problems, if this older teenager isn't her protector, will she even actually be her friend? And that's why she's causing these problems. So in our conclusion, what we're doing here, like I said, I'm actually going to use the wrapper. what our conclusion here that we present is that we're, as a party and as a GM, repairing this friendship and helping this younger girl realize that she doesn't have to instigate and that she can have friends without fear or using a tactic to do it. So I think that's our conclusion, our action, our follow-up here. Okay. I think this works really well. And what we need to put on this now is a title. I personally always like to title my story arcs, my one-shots, my sessions. I like to put a title on something. And we have a pretty common theme here. It's the older child protecting the younger child. It's fear of abandonment. It's want for attention and instigating issues. So a title with something like this, we can go super dark, we can go super serious, and this has some serious connotations to it, but I want a title that reflects not necessarily coming of age, but kind of that, obviously, that youthful feel. And I think I've got something here. This might work. I think that works. Now with this, obviously feel free, switch genders or roles. None of this is set in stone, but I think the theme really carries through a youth-focused session or one-shot, or even overall story. Honestly, I might even run this in a different type of setting. I don't run any youth-focused campaigns right now. I do play My Little Pony with my 2 kids. I have run some other youth-focused adventures, and this is something I would feel very comfortable presenting with my players and with my younger kids. Now, I might even put this in a campaign where the protector is, you can do anything up to an ancient dragon down to its goblin followers, its kobold followers, who it turns out are just egging on these issues. This is a theme that carries really in any way, but I think really resonates with a younger audience and a younger crowd. So let me know. Drop a comment below. Tell me what you would do with these cards. Maybe you would use the same theme, but carry it through an actual post-apoc zombie setting. Maybe it works better in your high fantasy. The point of this is to create something that you can use at home, regardless of the setting or session or series or campaign. This has been It's in the Cards. I can't wait to crack open our next story. Don't forget, hop online to obsidianportal.com, your one-stop campaign management site with everything you need to create a great story, characters, items, monsters, maps, everything. Obsidian Portal's got more depth than a bag of holding, more features than a bag of tricks. Your party doesn't just stay at the tavern, why should your game just stay at your table?